Hi there everyone. Today we are going to be making the Stranger Things text. This was requested by somebody off the comments and I told him that I would go ahead and do it. If you guys haven't seen Stranger Things, it's a Netflix TV show and it's pretty great. It's kind of like them old 80 TV shows. So the effect is this. Let me go ahead and restart this over real quick. Can't play sound because of copyright stuff, but this is the animation. Today we are not going to be doing the animation on this tutorial here. We're just going to be getting the text and everything set up like that. And if you guys would like to see animation, just leave me a comment below and I'll go ahead and make that. Now, a lot of the stuff that you're seeing on the effects, like the glares and all this stuff, this is a post effect, so meaning after it's composited into the text itself. And I believe this text was made using Cinema 4D, I believe, and After Effects. So it's a pretty cool looking text effect. I've been asked if I knew how to do it, and so I'm going to go ahead and show you guys the basics on how to make the text and how to get some of these post effects on here. They have a text generator. It's at makeitstranger.com. I believe the guy that did the intro to Stranger Things, I believe he made this, and you could go ahead and if you just click down here, you could create your own. So, and then just click Strangify it. So, if I type in, let's just do Blender things again. You just click Strangify, and you'll see it right there, and it will allow you to download the image. Now, the only thing with this is that you will get the background and everything with it, and the post effects on here are, in my opinion, they are too strong, but it looks alright, and I will leave this link to this website down below if you guys just want to go ahead and experiment with this. And the font that we're going to go ahead and use today, this font is called Brian James Condensed. I'll leave a link to this download down here. Now this is pretty close to the Stranger Things font. I forget which font is in this article right here. I believe this person tells you what kind of font is used. I forget the name of it now, but I found it, and the font itself is like $30 or $40 to buy. So if you want to read through this and get the actual font, you could go ahead and buy it from the guy that made it. Like I said, it's like $30 or $40, I believe. And this Brian James Condensed, I believe, is free for non-commercial purposes. I'm not sure. It don't really say here. But this is the closest font that I could find, and it's this one right here. And it looks pretty good. So if I go back to the text here, you'll see that it looks pretty good. And it looks kind of just like the text from the website here. Or I'm sorry, on the video here. Now, like I said, a lot of these glows and stuff, this is a post effect that when it was rendered, I go ahead and show you guys that here in just a few. So we're going to go ahead and I'll show you guys a little bit how I got the scene set up. So I just got 3 mesh lights in here. So it's these circles right here. And then I just have the text with a black plane for the background with the camera. So it's a pretty simple setup. This right here is the material, and it's pretty simple. I got a noise texture coming in here, the bump map to an emission diffuse with a glossy, and just a mix shader in there. So it's a fairly simple material to go ahead and set up, and it looks pretty good. And if we go back to the compositing, you'll see that I have a glare, a couple glares in here, a sharpen, and then an RGB curves. And so we'll go ahead and get started with this. So I'm just going to open up a new file here, and I'm going to go ahead and turn on my screencast keys here, and let's go ahead and see here. I want, let's do text, and let's go ahead and bring this over just a little bit. And that should be good. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to press A, and we're going to select everything, and then X, delete everything in the scene. And we're going to press Shift A, and we are going to add a text. And I'm going to press 1 on my number keypad, and 7 to go into the top view, and then 5 to go into orthographic view, just like that. And I'm going to go ahead and press Tab and go to edit mode, and I'm going to delete this text, and we're going to go ahead and make the text all capital. So I'm going to turn my caps lock on, and I'm going to type in stranger, and then I'm going to come over here into my font properties tab, and I'm going to scroll down, and I'm going to go ahead and align this to the center, and I'm going to press Shift D and then Y to constrain it to the Y and bring this down. Then I'm going to tab back into edit mode, and I'm going to type out things. Just like that, and I'm going to go back into object mode. We're going to come up here to stranger, and we're going to click on the regular font here, and we're going to click on open it up. I'm going to go to Windows and down to fonts, and if you guys are running Mac or Linux, it's pretty much the same. You just have to navigate to where your system stores its fonts at, and you will find it under here. I'm going to use the Brian James Condensed Bold 0_0, and I'm going to open the font just like that, and I'm going to come down to things, and I'm going to just click here and add that font there. And then I'm going to go ahead and zoom in with my middle mouse button, and I'm going to bring this up some, just like that. Now on my first couple go arounds, I went ahead and I extruded the text out a little bit. Now if you're just going to make a static image, meaning if you're just going to make an image without any animation onto it, you could go ahead and extrude this out and give this a little bit of depth. But for right now, I think we're just going to leave this as a flat font just like this. Now if you'll see here, you'll see that the S and the R are bigger on this font. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to tab into, we're going to press Alt-C, and we are going to make this a curve from mesh text, just like that. And we're going to do the same to the things down here. So Alt-C, and we'll go ahead and curve from mesh text, just like that. Now we're going to tab into edit mode, and I'm going to go ahead and click on one of these here and just press L, and then I'm going to press P and separate the S, and I'm going to do the same here on the R. So just click one and then press L to highlight all of them, and then press P to separate, just like that. Control Z that. Let's go ahead and make sure we're selecting everything. So 7, and I'm just going to press C, and I'm just going to highlight all that up there, and then press P and separate it, just like that. And let's bring that back. I'm going to do that one more time. So let's press 7 on our number keypad, and I'm just going to press C, and we'll just highlight these all. Just like that. Press P and separate. There we go. And then click here, press L, P, separate. Alrighty. So now we're going to come into this one, and we're going to go into edit mode, and we're just going to scale this guy up some. Press G to grab, and we're going to kind of line it up. We want this point here to kind of be hitting this point there. So if we come back over here and we look at it, we'll see that towards the middle of the bottom loop in the S down here, it's the T's kind of hitting the bottom there. So I think that's looking pretty good there. I bring it up just a tad bit, just like that. And then if we come back to here and we look at the R is lined up with the E, and it's coming, the tip of this E right here is hitting about the middle of the loop in that R there. So let's come back over here and let's go ahead and tab into edit mode, and let's go ahead and scale this guy up here and let's bring him down. Sure he's aligned, and let's see how that looks. That looks pretty good to me. We'll go ahead and bring this guy down and come back to our reference and look. So the tip of this S is hitting the bottom of the tip of that R. So let's scale down just a little bit. A little bit more. And start up again. And that's looking pretty good to me. Let's check the reference again. Oh yeah, that's looking pretty good. So now, how we're going to go ahead and get this text hollow. We're going to go ahead and press Shift A, and then we are going to add a curve, a Bezier circle, and we'll just go ahead and drag this guy out here, and we'll just click on the middle of the text here, and the bevel object, we want the Bezier circle, and we'll click back on the Bezier circle, and we'll just scale this guy down here. Zoom in a little bit and press S for scale, and I think that's looking pretty good. So we'll just go ahead and come through all of these and go ahead and click on that Bezier circle. Circle. And there you go. And now you see that we have the font is hollow. Now we're going to press Shift A, and we are going to go to Mesh, and we're going to add a plane. So Shift A, Mesh, Plane, and we are going to scale it on the X-axis, and then scale it on the Y-axis just a little bit, and X again, just like that. And let's look at it. Let's go to number 3 on our number keypad, and let's just drag this guy down just a little bit. And that looks good to me. We'll go ahead and add a material. So I'm in Cycles. So if you're not in Cycles, just click up here and switch your render engine to Cycles Render. And let's add a new material. And let's just call this BG for background. BG background. Just like that. And go under Settings and Viewport Color. And let's just change this to black. That looks good here, and we're going to go ahead and click in the middle of this text here, and we're going to add a new material to this, and we'll just name this text. Just like that, and viewport color, let's make this a red. Just like that. So I'm going to hold down Shift, and I'm going to click on the S, the R, and things, and then I'm going to click back here in the middle of this text. Like that, and I'm going to press Control L. And we're going to link the materials. This is just an easy way to do it. And we're just going to come down and press materials. And now you'll see that all the text has the material on it. Just like that, fairly simple. And the next thing we are going to do is press Shift A, and we are going to add a camera. And with the camera, let's go ahead and press 3 on our number keypad to go on the right ortho, and let's press R, and we're going to rotate this, what is it, 45 degrees, I believe, and just bring that straight up there. So let's press GZ and bring it up here. And let's press 0 to look at it through our number keypad. And then let's come over here and let's lock our camera to view. And let's just line this guy up here. And let's zoom it out. Oops. Now, for some reason, I'm having an issue with controlling the camera. So let's press number 1 on our number keypad. Let's click back on the camera. Let's press the period key on our number keypad. And let's go back 0 again. And there we go. That's better. Let's just line this up here. And let's click on this outline of the camera. And let's press GZ. Actually, let's press R and the Z for rotate. And let's just scroll out with our mouse wheel. Get this place here. So if I look at it from 1, let's bring this in the middle here. And let's just rotate this, looking at it. Let's just get it straight. Let's go to 3. And let's rotate it. And let's get it looking straight on. Just like that. Let's go back and there we go. So we got our camera all lined up. And so the next thing we just need to do is we need to click on one of these texts, and we need to go ahead and make the material for it. So I'm going to come up here in the corner, and I'm just going to drag out this a new viewport here, and I'm going to come down here to this little square down here, and I'm going to press N on my keyboard, or you could scroll up and just go to the node editor and click. And there you go. I'm going to press N to get rid of that side panel there. We don't need that for right now. And we are going to go ahead and we're going to start on this material. So the material that we want to make it some kind of red. So let's just go ahead and drag this down to be red here. And let's go ahead and press NT in this view. And actually, let's press N and let's unlock the camera from our view, and then N again, and then let's go ahead and zoom in on here. And I'm going to come over here to my render settings, and I'm going to make sure that it's on GPU compute. Make sure border render is checked, and that's pretty good. I think one of the things that we do need to add, though, that I forgot all about, and I apologize, is let's go ahead and add a light source real quick. So let's press Shift A, and let's go to Mesh, and let's add a UV sphere, just like that. And let's tab into Edit Mode, and with it all selected, if yours is not all selected, just press A and highlight it all. And then let's come over here and let's go to Select, and then let's go to Checker. Let's do this in face select mode. So let me highlight everything again. And let's go to select, and let's go to checker deselect. Just like that. And I'm going to press X and delete faces. Just like that. And let's come over here and let's add a new material. And let's just call this light. And let's change the surface from diffuse to emission. Just like that. And let's go ahead and press GZ. Oops. Let's go ahead and go back into object mode. Let's press GZ and let's bring this guy up just a little bit. Scale it down some. Let's press Shift D and X to constrain it on the X. So we just duplicated it. And let's scale this one down some. And let's bring it down closer. And let's go ahead and Shift D this one and press X and drag it over here to this side. And we are going to come back over here and let's press this little 3 to make it a single user, so we can change the light settings as far as the strength and stuff like that on each one separately. So let's go ahead and click here just like that, and let's press on this one, and then let's come back over here and let's go into the properties, the data properties here, and let's come down to the cycle settings, and let's make sure the ray visibility is not visible to the camera. And let's press circle, and let's press Z, and let's go to rendered, and let's see how strong. Oops, I forgot to put a material on this, or there is. Let's go ahead and make this material black. There we go. And so let's go ahead and click on these light sources. So if we zoom out here, we can see them. I just clicked on the outside of this one. Let's go to the material tab, and let's go ahead and make this maybe 2. And let's click on this one, and let's try 2 for this one. And let's see if it gives it a little bit more light here, and see how it looks. And we're gonna go, let's go really high for this one. Let's go 10 here, because we want to get these bright highlights on this text. So let's keep it 10, and let's maybe try 5 on this end over here. And let's press Z, and let's go back into solid mode, and let's click on this big one over here, and let's make this big one 5 also. Just like that, and press Z, and let's go back into render, and let's see how bright this one is. So that's looking good. Let's go ahead and press Z again, and let's go back into solid. Let's come out of camera view, and let's just see how raised up that one is here. And I think that looks pretty good. So let's go press 0 on our number keypad to go back into camera view, and let's click back on our text, and let's go ahead and come back in here, and let's go ahead and get our texture setup going for this. So we're going to have a diffuse, and we want the text to be red. And so we're going to go ahead and let's add a Shift A. Let's go ahead and add a texture, an image texture. And because if you've seen in the trailer when the text was close up, you see that there's a little bit of texture on the text. Now, like I said, a lot of this is done in the post effects, but if you look closely, I don't know if I could find it in here, but closely, there looks like there is a little bit of breakup in the text. Now, like I said, most of this, almost all of this, is all just post effect. So like a film grain type thing that they rendered on here. So we're gonna make our text have just a little bit of texture on it. So I'm going to add a noise texture, and we're going to just go ahead and add the noise texture in here, and I will leave a link to this noise texture below in the description if you guys want to go ahead and use this. And I'm going to press Control T, and that's just a shortcut. If you guys don't have that, if you press Control Alt U and you go into add-ons and you type in node, it will be the Node Wrangler here. And this is a super great add-on. It makes all kinds of things easier when it comes to nodes, and there's a bunch of shortcuts. And I said, if you're fairly new to Blender, I suggest you learn. It's hard to learn all the shortcuts. Even I don't remember all the shortcuts, but to learn the main ones that you use the most, and it will make your workflow inside of Blender a whole lot easier. And since they started making pie menus, I fell in love with Blender that much more, because pie menus makes things so much easier. And thanks to Peace Wazoo, done a bang up job creating a bunch of pie menus that I use and I've been using for a very long time now. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and we want because when we add the post effect, and I'll show you guys this a little bit after we make this material, we want to add a little bit of an emission from the text. I mean, I know there's lights shining down onto the text and stuff like that, but we want to make the text a little bit emissive also. And that's just to get a little bit more of the kind of like the fiery kind of look inside of the text here. And I'm not going to say this is the best way to do this, but this is an easy way to go ahead and get your text to look similar. So we're going to go ahead and press Shift A, and we're going to add a shader, a mix shader. And we'll just go ahead and add that on there. We're going to press Shift A and go to shader, and we're going to add an emission shader here. And we're just going to click and put the emission shader into the bottom node there. And now we are going to make this shader a little bit orange, and I have the hex code from the previous one I did here. So if we just zoom in here and click on the color and go over to hex, I'm going to go ahead and paste it in here, and the orange that I'm going to use is FF4F00. And now you'll see that's a nice bright red orange. So what we want to do is we are going to use this noise texture here to break up the emissiveness with the diffuse color. So what we're going to do is we're going to just go ahead and we're going to add the color into the factor on this mix shader. And so it's going to take all this in here, and we're going to change this to non-color data, and it's going to take the noise texture and it's going to go all along this text, and it's going to break this up here. And we are going to go ahead and we are going to change the projection to box, and we're going to leave this to linear. And we'll go ahead and change the mapping scale. Let's go ahead and try 3 for now. And if you guys didn't see what I did there, let me go ahead and zoom in here. I just I held down Shift and highlighted all 3 of these just like that. That way I could change all these and change the scale to 3. Just like that. And we are going to change the texture coordinate from UV to object. Just like that. And so we'll leave that like that there. The next thing we are going to do is we're going to add another mix shader. Oops, Shift D, and we're going to duplicate this shader here, and we're going to press Shift A, shader, and we are going to add a glossy shader just like that, and we are going to add this to the bottom here. And we will make the glossiness, let's go about 0.01 for the glossiness here. And I'm going to use this texture, noise texture here to create a little bit of a bump on the text. So let's press Shift A, and let's go ahead and add a bump map, which is in vector bump, just like that. And let's add the color from this image to the height. And let's go ahead and let's click the normal to the diffuse, the normal to the glossiness, and let's go ahead and drag it all the way over here, and let's connect it to displacement. Just like that. So you guys should have a setup that looks like this. So diffuse, emission, and the glossy 0.0. And let's go ahead, and we don't want more glossiness on this text, so let's go ahead and drop this down to about a 0.1. That way we get more of the diffuse and emission in there instead of the glossiness. So now if we came and went back over here to this viewport, and let's press 1 on our number keypad, and let's go ahead and click on this text, and we're going to go ahead And let's see here. Let's make sure that everything is correct. All right. So that looks good. And let's go ahead and press Control B. And we are going to just draw out a little bit of a border here. And let's go ahead and zoom in some, and let's press Z, and let's go to rendered, and let's see how that looks. Now if I zoom way in here, you'll see that I went ahead and I faked that film grain look. That's right there. So if you look right here really close, you'll see that with this material that we added, we faked that film grain right there. So that was the goal with that. So let's press Z, and let's go out to solid, and let's press Control Alt B to take off border select, and let's press circle to go back into our camera view. And that is it for this. Let's go ahead and click up here, and let's go into compositing now. So in the compositor, if we press 0 on our number keypad to go into there, and if we just come over here and we press, without changing any of these settings over here, see sampling, okay, I just wanted to make sure my sampling wasn't set too high, so this will render quickly. So if we press F12 and give this a really quick render, and if we press Shift spacebar to full screen that, we'll see that it's looking pretty good, but I messed up over here. So let's come back and let's go back to the previous, so Shift spacebar again, and let's go ahead and click on these lights too, and let's come back into the object data, cycle settings, camera, and this one also. Let's turn the ray visibility off the camera. That way when it renders, you're not, if this is in your scene and stuff like that, it will not render the mesh object itself. It'll render everything else. You'll still get the light source and all that stuff. So if I press F12 again and let it render out real quick, and let's go Shift space, just like that, you'll see that the text is looking pretty good. Now I wanted a widescreen look for this text here, so let's go and let's click on our camera here in the viewport, and let's come back over here and let's go to our resolution here, and I believe I set this on like 2200, I believe. Let me look at the other one. So I set this to about 2280 and by 980. So I wanted a real wide look. So now if we render it over here, you see that it's more of a widescreen look here, and that looks perfect to me. The next thing that we might do was come over here to the camera settings, and it's a focal length of 35. And so I'm not sure what they used in the film, so if we change it to 60, you'll be zoomed in a little bit more. And let's go 28. I think we'll just go ahead and leave the focal length alone for right now, and we'll just leave it on the standard focal length for now. And you guys can go ahead and come and play with this if you want to, or if you want to do a little bit of research. I'm not sure if in this article if they say anything about the camera at all, but you guys can go ahead and look that up for if you guys want to, for your own reference. But this looks okay with me. The only thing that I'm not liking here, so let's press in on our number keypad, and let's lock the camera to the view again, and let's press in again to close that back out. The only thing I'm not liking is there's a lot of space up there, so let's go ahead and actually make sure we're clicked on our camera. Let's press G and then Y, and then let's drag this back a little bit, and now let's press F12. And let's see if that looks a little bit better. And that looks a little bit better. It's kind of centered. We might need to press G and then X. Move this over just a tad tiny bit. Alrighty. So I think that looks pretty good there now. So if we render... Oh yeah, okay. That looks pretty good to me. The next thing we are going to do, let's go ahead and play with our render settings a little bit. For right now, I'm going to leave it on... yeah, let's leave it on half resolution just for the sake of this tutorial. And let's see, the render samples we could turn up probably to, let's say, something like 350, I think is pretty fine. So if we render this out at 350, of course we're at half resolution right now, so it's not going to be full resolution. The higher you make your resolution. So a lot of the times what I do when I render things, and if I have a certain setting, I put the instead of 100%, I make it 200%. So it's going to make it 2 times bigger than this size. So, but for right now, we'll leave this at 50%. And we'll come in here, and if you zoom in way close, you'll see that 300 is probably not high enough. But for this demonstration, I don't know. I'll make the samples up to 500, and then that way it just renders quickly and things like that. So let's go ahead and let's come back into our default view here, and let's click on this background. So let's press 1 on our number keypad to go on front view, and then just let's use your middle mouse button, click in to pan around, and let's click on this background, and let's press M on our keyboard to move this to a different layer, and let's move this to layer 2. And let's go ahead and hold down shift and click down here on our layer panels, and let's turn this back on. And then let's come back over here and let's go to our render layers. And so on the first render layer, I want just the text. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna set the first render layer. We're going to have just the first layer on. Okay, and then we're going to press the next button here, and you could rename these if you'd like. Like this one could be background, and this one could be text, just like that. If you'd like to do it that way. So the next one, if we go to the background, we're going to just have the layer 2 put on. And the reason why I'm doing the render layers is because it will render one layer with all of the text here, and then it'll render the next layer with just the background, and we'll have more control over this when we go to compositing. Now another thing that I want to do is come back over to our render settings, and let's go ahead and let's scroll down, and to where it says film, let's click transparent. That way when it renders, it will render with transparency, and you'll see why we want to do that here in just a second. And let's see, so and then you could go ahead and set up your PNG, or you could go a TIFF if you'd like, or OpenEXR. Now, OpenEXR, I believe you could save 32-bit. I'm not sure if Blender saves it with 32-bit here, but we're going to go ahead and we'll just save this as a PNG for now. And 16-bit's fine, and I like to put my 90% compression. And that's cool right there. And sampling. Now there's this cool add-on, or it's not in sampling, sorry, it's in performance. There's this cool add-on. It's auto tile size. So if you press Control-Alt-U and you type in under add-ons, you type in tile, I believe it is, and you just turn on render auto tile size, and it does an algorithm, and it sees what GPU and stuff you have in there. And if you don't have a good GPU and your CPU is better, if you change it to CPU, you come back down here and you'll see that it sets auto tile size for you. But I have a pretty good GPU, so I'd rather render with that. And with GPU, it's always better to have the tiles that render bigger. And with CPU, it's always better to have the tiles that render lower. So We got render samples at 500. And I think that's pretty good. Now let's jump back over to compositing, and let's come back over here to the compositor, and maybe I'll go up to 100%. It should render pretty quick. So if I just press F12, or if I just press render, so render, and they give this a render, and you'll see, now you see this is the reason why I had transparency turned on, because the first layer I wanted it to render with transparency. That way when we come into the compositing nodes up here, we'll be able to add this over the background with transparency, and we don't have to fiddle with no masking or nothing like that to get it to look right. So this should render fairly fast, so I may pause the recording. I'm not sure. It looks like it's going pretty quickly here, so it might be okay. But I think maybe I will just go ahead and I will pause the recording for now, and I will come back after this is rendered. Alright everybody, I am back, and you see that it's rendered. And let's go ahead and come up here into the compositing part, and let's click on Use Nodes. And let's click on Backdrop. And the way we want to set this up, now you guys will see that there's only one, and you're like, oh no, but we just rendered it in the, we rendered out both the text and the background separately. What do I do? So we're going to go ahead and take care of that now. So we're going to, now if you have Node Wrangler enabled, you'll go ahead and hold down, I think it's Control and, what is it, or is it Alt? Shift. Okay, sorry, it's Control Shift left click, and it'll bring up a viewer node. What's going on there? There we go. And so it'll bring up a viewer node. That way you could view the text. Now V is to zoom out, and Alt V is to zoom in on your keyboard. So we're going to press V and zoom this out, and you'll see that we got the text here. But now we need to add the background. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on this renders layer, and we're going to press Shift D to duplicate this, just like this. And we're going to set this right here to the BG. And now you'll see we got the background. And now we need to overlay the text onto the background. So we're going to press Shift A, and we're going to go to Color, Alpha Over. And we're just going to add it to the composite, and we're going to press Control Shift and left click, and we're going to add that to the viewer node, and we're going to go ahead and click this image in here. Or is it reverse? Let's try reverse. There we go. So we need the top render layer, we need that to be on the bottom, and the background to be on the top input node here. So, and that's all you need to do, and now we got both of them, and now we're going to be able to control these separately if we need to. So the next thing that we are going to go ahead and we're going to add here is we're going to add a glare node. And so we're going to press Shift A, and we'll go ahead and we're going to find this in, I think it's Filter, and then Glare. And we're going to add this to the viewer node, and we're going to change this to fog glow, and we're going to put this on high. And if you don't see none of the glowing, that's because you need to change this threshold here. And let's change this threshold. Let's try 0.025, and let's see if that does anything for us. And now you'll see that we got some glow going on here. So if I press Alt V and zoom in, you'll see that we got some good glows going here. And I could press Shift spacebar to make this full screen. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and we're going to add another glare node. So let's just go ahead and Shift D this, and let's add this here. And we're going to change the threshold to, let's try 0.05, and let's see how that goes. And we're going to put the size of this, let's try 6. And see, you'll just see that that gives it a little bit more of a glow with a little bit less of a threshold, and it's looking pretty good. So the next thing we are going to add, go ahead and come back over here. We're going to press Shift A, and we're going to add a filter, and we're going to change this to sharpen. And we'll go ahead and add this to the viewer node. And you'll see that now if we zoom in, so if we go Alt V, it's bringing out that breakup, but that's not looking too super good. So let's go ahead and maybe let's try 0.3 maybe. And let's go ahead and zoom back in here with Alt V. That's breaking that up pretty good, and I'm liking that. So let's go ahead, and the next thing we are going to add is we're going to add an RGB curve. So let's press Shift A, and let's go to vector, I believe. Nope. Converter. Or is it in color? RGB curves. There we go. And let's go ahead and just click in the middle here, and let's raise this curve up just a tad bit. And let's press Alt V, or V, sorry, and zoom out some. And you'll see that we have a very cool looking Stranger Things text. So if I come back over here and go back up to this video, and we come out, and you'll see that now we have a cool looking Stranger text. Now, there's one thing that I did forget to do, if you guys haven't noticed, was I forgot to add these bars. So let's go ahead and let's jump back over here and let's add these bars, because it's looking funny and I can't believe I forgot that. But let's go ahead and add those now. Those are pretty easy to add. So let's go ahead and click on this little triangle thing up here, and let's drag it to the right and then to the left to close it. Let's go ahead and click on these mesh lights. So let's go ahead and click that one, hold Shift, click this one, hold Shift, click that one. Let's press H to hide them. And let's press and then let's click on the camera too and press H to hide that. So let's press Shift A, and let's add a cube. And let's scale this along the Y. Oops. Press S and then Y to constrain it along the Y. And let's press S and then Z. Go ahead and scale that down smaller. Something like that will work for now. Let's press S and then Y and scale this in some too. So let's grab it along the Y here, and let's bring it up here. Let's press S and then X to scale it along the X. And let's go ahead and let's try to align it to this S right here. Let's press Alt Tab and let's look. Yeah, so it's aligned with the S here, and then the end of the R there. So let's go ahead and come back and let's look at this. Let's scale it along the X just a tad bit more, and that looks good. And let's scale it along the Y and make it a little bit thinner because it's a little bit too thick. And that looks good to me. So what we're going to do now is we are going to go ahead and press Shift D and then Y and constrain it down to the Y down here. And let's go ahead and scale this along the X. And let's drag this over here. Keep these lined up, scale X. And let's look back here. So it's at the bottom of the T a little bit. Okay. So let's go ahead and zoom back in here. Let's press 7 on our number keypad, and let's scale this along the X again. And let's move this over so it's kind of aligned there. And let's press Shift D and then X to constrain it on the X. And let's bring it over here to the R, and let's look at our reference again. So it's pretty close to the S. Okay. So let's scale along the X-axis, so SX. And let's bring this guy in here. And let's kind of make sure they're aligned there, and that looks pretty good to me. So the next thing we're going to do is we are going to go ahead and press Shift D on this one, and then left click and lock it in, and then we're going to zoom in here, and we're going to scale this along the Y some. And then we're going to scale this along the X some. Hold down Shift to constrain the scale. Something like that should be good. So now what we're going to do is, and we're going to press S and then scale it along the Z a little bit. S, Z. Alright, that looks good. So what we're going to do now is we are going to make sure we're clicked on that one, on the one we just made. So it's that one. And then we're going to shift click the bottom one, just like that. And there is a cool tool called the Bool tool. So if you Google Bool tool, you'll find this Bool tool, and it just makes things easier. But we could go ahead, and since I know most people ain't going to have the Bool tool, we could just go ahead and come to the modifier panel and go to modifier, and let's click on Boolean, and we are going to make this, I think it is intersect, and let's go ahead and click this little picker, and let's click on cube 3. And let's see here, is it the intersect that we want? Let's try union. Let's click this one. Union difference. I think it's difference. So if we go G, Y, yeah. So if we come back here and we click on apply, you'll see that it's cut through how we want it. So let's press Control Z, and then let's go ahead and grab this top one and let's bring it back out, and I'll show you. It cut through this perfectly for us. So that's an easy way to do it. So let's go ahead and let's just X, delete that one, and then let's come here and let's Shift D, left click to lock it in. Let's scale it along the Z axis, and then scale it along the Y axis. Y a little bit more, then scale it along the X. And then let's click this bottom one here, and let's go back to add modifier, Boolean. Let's click this picker, and let's click the top one, just like that, and difference. And then let's click back here, and let's apply it. And let's go ahead and X, delete that middle one, and you'll see that. And let's go ahead and do the same thing here. So Shift D, let's click to lock it in, scale it along the Z axis, scale it along the Y axis, scale it along the X axis, just like that. And let's go ahead and click back on the bottom one, add a Boolean, and let's go ahead and click on the picker, and let's add the Boolean that we just made. Let's click on difference, let's apply the modifier, let's grab this, X, delete. Now let's go ahead and click this one, this one, this one. Actually, let's click the middle one first with the red, and then let's click this one, this one, this one, and then click back on the middle text and press Control L, materials. And there you go. Now you got the materials on. Now let's press Alt-H to unhide everything. And let's go ahead and come back into our compositor. And let's press Z and go to rendered. See how that looks. Now that looks a little bit too thick. So let's go ahead and press Shift spacebar to come in this. And let's go into number 1. And let's go ahead and grab all these here, and let's press S, Z to scale these on these Z axes, and let's just flatten these out some. Circle, Z, rendered. There we go. That looks a lot better. So let's press Shift spacebar to go back, and I'm going to go ahead and come back over here, and let's press render again. And I will be right back once this gets done rendering. Alright guys, I am back. There's a couple things. Now when you render, you want to make sure that everything is hooked up to the compositor. So from this RGB curves, you just want to drag it out and make sure that it's hooked up to the compositor. That way when you render it, it will render out with these effects that we just added to it in the compositor. And another thing, so if we go back to default, now, I didn't do this, but if you guys happen to press render and it's only rendering just the text, that's because you added your cube on the second layer. So in order to if you did that, just go ahead and just click on the little lines that we made here, hold down Shift and just press N and make sure you move them back to the first layer and then hit render again. If that happens to you guys, I was just thinking about that while it rendered. So let's go back to the compositor, and you will see that we got a pretty good looking Stranger Things text. And if looking at it now, it looks like the camera is off just a little bit. So if we click on the camera, and let's go back into default here. So let's go to default and click on the camera. Let's press N, bring up our side panel here, and you'll see that the location, let's go ahead and hold down Shift and drag through here and press 0. And let's go ahead and go to rotation and press 0. And that will just straighten everything out for you. And then let's just go ahead and drag this back up and press 0 on your number keypad and G, Z, and let's just go ahead and bring this back out straight on the text, just like that. And then when we come back over here to the compositing and we re-render this will go ahead and everything should be good. So if I press render, and you'll see that it's going to go ahead and it should be straight now. So we just give it a second and let it render. Alright, I am back, and you'll see that doing that straightened up our text. So now it's looking straight on and everything. And you'll see that if I press Alt-V, and you'll see that we got a pretty good looking text here. So that's how I would go about making the Stranger Things text. And we come back over here, and if you look, you'll see that it's not. This don't even look the same as in the intro. It's a little bit too. I don't know. Let me go ahead and it's a little bit too. It's got too much blur and bloom and stuff on it. But come here, and this is an easy way to do that. And if you don't want a black background, you guys could add whatever background you would like. Just press Control-Alt-U, and you could come in here and just type in image, and you can click on Import Images as Planes, and you could go ahead and add your background to be whatever you want. Now, like I said, this is just for a static image and how to get the text looking like the Stranger Things text. If you guys want animation and stuff like that, please leave a comment below, like this video, and please subscribe for tons more tutorials. Have a great day. Thank you.